Hello students, this is the third video tutorial about ultraviolet spectroscopy, and first lecture we have seen theory and principle about UV spectroscopy. In second lecture we have seen important terms used in UV spectroscopy, and in this tutorial we are going to discuss instrumentation and applications of UV spectroscopy. Instrumentation and applications of UV spectroscopy is very similar to visible spectroscopy because commercially ultraviolet and visible spectroscopy are used in combination known as UV visible spectroscopy. So most of the parts of instrumentation and most of the applications of UV spectroscopy are similar to the visible spectroscopy. So in this tutorial only the difference between UV and visible spectroscopy are discussed here. So students, make sure you first refer instrumentation and applications of colorimetry, both of those lectures, and then you can study easily this lecture, because here in this lecture only the difference between UV and visible spectroscopy is discussed. Common things between UV and visible spectroscopies are not discussed, they are not covered because they are already covered in the instrumentation and applications of colorimetry. So first you refer instrumentation and applications of colorimetry, of which this link is given in description box, and then you can easily study this lecture. So let's start with the instrumentation of UV spectroscopy. Main instrument of UV spectroscopy is UV visible spectrophotometer, because UV and visible, both of these spectroscopies are used in combination. Basic components of UV spectroscopy are similar to the basic components of colorimetry. These are already discussed. We have already seen these components in instrumentation of colorimetry. There are four components: radiation source, filter or monochromator, then sample holder, and then detector. Radiation source gives us the radiation in the range of UV rays, which is 200 nanometer to 400 nanometer. Then the second main component is filter or monochromator, of which function is to convert polychromatic light into monochromatic light. Then the sample holder to hold the sample, and the detector to detect the signals. The best source of light is the one which is more stable, more intense, and which gives range of UV spectrum from 180 nanometer to 400 nanometer. The different sources available are hydrogen discharge lamp, deuterium lamp, xenon discharge lamp, and mercury arc. These are the sources used in UV spectroscopy. So first is hydrogen discharge lamp. It is more stable and widely used. It gives radiation from 120 to 350 nanometer, and this lamp consists of hydrogen under high pressure. The second radiation source is deuterium lamp. It is similar to the hydrogen discharge lamp, but it is filled with deuterium obviously in the place of hydrogen, and it offers 3 to 5 times more intensity than other types of radiation sources, and this is most widely used, but it is quite expensive. The third one is xenon discharge lamp. In this lamp, xenon at 10 to 30 atmospheric pressure is filled in, and it has 2 tungsten electrodes, and the intensity of this xenon discharge lamp is greater than the hydrogen discharge lamp. And fourth one is mercury arc. It contains mercury vapor and offers bands which are sharp, but the spectrum obtained by using this mercury arc is not continuous, and so it is not widely used. So these are the four radiation sources used in UV spectroscopy: hydrogen discharge lamp, deuterium lamp, xenon discharge lamp, and mercury arc. Second component of the instrumentation is monochromators, and in UV spectroscopy grating monochromators are used. We have seen that monochromators are majorly divided into two types: filters and monochromators. In filter, there are also two subtypes: absorbance filter and interference filter, and monochromators are also divided into two subtypes: prisms and gratings. And gratings have the highest specificity, highest efficiency among all the types of monochromators, and so gratings are used in UV spectroscopy. And we have seen that glass absorbs UV radiation, and so in UV spectroscopy all the material will be quartz, all the components will be made up of quartz, and so gratings made up of quartz are used in UV spectroscopy as a monochromator. Filters and prism monochromators are not used because of their low resolution, and on the other hand these gratings provide a band pass of 0.4 to 2 nanometer, and so these gratings are more widely used, especially in expensive spectrophotometers. And the mirrors, gratings, etc. are made up of quartz because glass absorbs UV radiations. We have seen these two types of gratings in instrumentation of colorimetry already: diffraction grating and transmission grating. The figures are given here only for your recall. The third main component is sample cell, and as I said, glass absorbs UV radiation, and so sample cell made up of quartz is used in UV spectroscopy, while a sample cell made up of glass is used in visible spectroscopy, while in here UV spectroscopy the material quartz is used because glass absorbs UV radiation. So the cells only made up of quartz is used in UV spectroscopy. Its path length and its manufacturing and its other parameters we have already seen in colorimetry. The second main component of the instrumentation is detectors, and in colorimetry we have seen that main three detectors are widely used, which are barrier layer cell, the second one is photoemissive tube, and the third one is photomultiplier tube. And among these three detectors, photomultiplier tubes have highest sensitivity and detectivity, and so here in UV spectroscopy photomultiplier tubes, in short known as PMT, are used as a detector. Its construction and working we have already seen in colorimetry. So here in UV spectroscopy photomultiplier tubes are used as a detector. Then the solvent plays an important role in UV spectra because compound peak could not be mixed, because the compound peak could be mixed with solvent peak. So solvent for a sample is selected in such a way that the solvent neither absorbs in the region of measurement nor affects the absorption of the sample, and some commonly used solvents and their absorption regions are given here. In UV spectroscopy, ethanol, water and cyclohexane are used widely because see here students, the absorption region of these solvents are nearer to 200, and the range in which we are working in the UV spectroscopy is from 200 nanometer to 400 nanometer. So these solvents do not interfere in that region, and so they can be used as a solvents in UV spectroscopy, because if they absorb in the region 200 to 400 nanometer, then the absorption peaks of these solvents can be mixed with our sample molecules, and it should not be, because in any spectroscopy we only want that we should get result about our sample molecules only. Any material from solvent or any material from the component or material should not be interfere with the sample molecules, and so solvents should be chosen on the basis of their absorption region. And here in UV spectroscopy, ethanol, water and cyclohexane are widely used. Then we have seen that visible spectroscopy and in UV spectroscopy also that the instrumentation are mainly of two types. First one is single beam spectrophotometer and the second one is double beam spectrophotometer. Here beam means this beam is of radiation, here the UV radiation. So in single beam UV spectrophotometer, the single beam of UV radiation will pass through a sample. Here see the sample holders. In single beam UV spectrophotometer only the sample holder is there, while in double beam UV spectrophotometer reference holder is there as well as sample holder is there. So in double beam, this M1, which is a beam splitter which splits radiation beam coming from the monochromator into two parts, one of which passes through the reference and second of which passes through the sample. So in double beam the radiation is divided into two beams, so it is known as double beam, and while in single beam the beam is not divided and so only single beam is passed through the sample, so it is known as single beam. In double beam we get result of our sample in reference to the reference molecule or the reference compound or a standard compound, while in single beam we only get result about our sample, while in double beam we get comparison. So this is the single beam and double beam UV spectrophotometer. So this was all about the instrumentation of UV spectroscopy. Then the next part is applications of UV spectroscopy. The first application is qualitative analysis. Second one is quantitative analysis. Third one is chemical kinetics. Fourth one is ketoenol tautomerism. Fifth application is determination of ligand metal ratio in metallic complexes. Sixth application is determination of pKa value, means dissociation constants of indicators. Seventh application is determination of molecular weight of amines. Eighth application is determination of elements, ions and functional groups. Ninth one is determination of organic substances and pharmaceuticals. And the last one is spectrophotometric titrations. Qualitative analysis means it is UV spectroscopy is used to check the quality, means the presence of or absence of impurities in our sample. Then quantitative analysis means it is used to determine the concentration or quantity of our sample. Here applications number 1 to 4 are discussed because application number 5 to 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10th are already discussed in detail in applications of colorimetry, means in previous lectures. So in this tutorial applications 1 to 4 are discussed in detail. So let's start with the first application, which is qualitative analysis. The first application of qualitative analysis, qualitative analysis means it is used for the detection of impurities. To limit the presence of impurities, we can use UV spectrophotometric measurements. Additional peaks can be due to the impurities in the sample, and these peaks can be compared with that of standard raw material, and also by absorbance measurements at specific wavelengths the impurities can be detected. Here one example is given: presence of phenol as an impurity in adrenaline, and the lambda max of phenol is 310 nanometer and the lambda max of adrenaline is 280 nanometer. So the extinction of 0.2% weight by volume solution of adrenaline in 0.01 normal HCl at 310 nanometer is not more than 0.2. But if it is more than 0.2 at 310 nanometer, then the phenols as an impurity can be we can say that if it is more than 0.2, then we can say that phenols are present as an impurity in this particular sample of adrenaline, because adrenaline has extinction coefficient less than 0.2 at 310 nanometer. But if it is more than 0.2 in particularly given condition, 0.2% weight by volume and in 0.01 normal HCl, then we can say that phenols are present as an impurity in the sample of adrenaline. So these UV spectrophotometers are used for the detection of impurities. The second one is structure elucidation of organic compounds. It is used to elucidate, to assume structure of organic compounds. UV spectroscopy helps in structure elucidation of organic compounds. The presence or absence of unsaturation The presence of heteroatoms like sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen or halogens can be determined by UV spectroscopy, and this figure show how the presence of peaks corresponds to the unsaturation and saturation and presence and absence of heteroatoms. From the location of peaks, some information about a molecule can be obtained. A combination of peaks is also observed. Thus, the results of the spectral studies helps in structure elucidation, whether the compound is saturated or unsaturated, heteroatom is present or absent, etc. The third qualitative analysis application is structural analysis of organic compounds. And this structural analysis of organic compounds, following parameters plays an important role, which are: first one is effect of conjugation, second is effect of geometric isomerism, third is effect of cross conjugation, fourth is effect of alkyl substitution, and fifth is number of rings. So first is effect of conjugation. About the effect of conjugation on lambda max, we have studied in previous tutorial that extended conjugation causes bathochromic shift, means red shift, means it shifts lambda max towards longer wavelength, and reverse condition to that means saturation of double bond causes hypsochromic shift, means blue shift, means it shifts lambda max towards shorter wavelength, right? Means extended conjugation causes bathochromic shift and saturation of double bond causes hypsochromic shift. So by shifting of these lambda max of the compound, we can say that the conjugation is present in the structure or not. Here, the third effect is effect of geometric isomerism. Trans isomer absorbs at longer wavelength than cis isomer. For example, calciferol of cis isomer of calciferol has lambda max 265 nanometer, and its trans isomer isovit has lambda max 287 nanometer. So we can say that trans isomer absorbs at longer wavelength than cis isomer. So we can say that conversion from cis to trans isomer results in bathochromic shift and hyperchromic shift, because we have seen in previous tutorial that bathochromic shift means shifting of lambda max towards longer wavelength, and hyperchromic shift means increase in the intensity of absorption, and hypsochromic shift means shifting of lambda max towards shorter wavelength, which is also known as blue shift, and hypochromic shift means a decrease in the intensity of absorption. So we can say that conversion of cis to trans isomer results in bathochromic shift and hyperchromic shift, and reverse condition means conversion from trans to cis isomer results in hypsochromic shift means and hypochromic effect. The third effect is effect of cross conjugation. Cross conjugation has no any effect on lambda max, and this can be studied by following illustration. Here structure 1 and structure 2 is given. In structure 1 there is no cross conjugation, but in structure 2 there is cross conjugation. But lambda max of both of these structures are same. The structure 1 is present in the structure of progesterone, and structure 2 is present in prednisone and prednisolone. Right? Here the side chains are different in prednisone and prednisolone. So from both of these details, we can say that cross conjugation does not affect lambda max. Here, whether the cross conjugation is present or not present, the lambda max is same, which is 241 nanometer. Lambda max is unaffected by the presence of cross conjugation. So we can say that cross conjugation does not affect lambda max. The next effect is effect of alkyl substitution. Alkyl substitution causes bathochromic shift or red shift, means shifting of lambda max towards longer wavelength. Here the substance cortenaldehyde has 1 alkyl substitution, alpha ionone has 2 and progesterone has 3, and you can compare lambda maxes of these three compounds. The compound cotenaldehyde having 1 alkyl substitution has lambda max 217 nanometer. Then alpha ion having 2 alkyl substitution has lambda max 228 nanometer, and progesterone having 3 alkyl substitutions has lambda max 241 nanometer. So lambda max is in increasing order. So we can say that alkyl substitution causes bathochromic shift or red shift. The fifth one is number of rings. Similarly to alkyl substitution, number of rings also causes bathochromic shift or red shift. Means as the number of rings increases, it causes shifting of lambda max towards longer wavelength. Benzene has number of rings 1, so it has lambda max 261. Then naphthalene has number of rings 2. Then anthracene has number of rings 3, naphthacene has number of rings 4, and pentacene has number of rings 5. And you can see that lambda maxes are in increasing order. So as the number of rings increases, lambda max also increases. So number of rings causes bathochromic shift. This was about qualitative analysis. The second application is quantitative analysis. In that, first one is quantitative analysis can be done by using E1 percentage 1 centimeter values. Then the 7, this value is available but reference standard is not available. Then the E1 percentage 1 centimeter value is not available but reference standard is available. In that case, two methods are used. First one is single standard method or direct comparison method, and second is calibration curve method or multiple standard method. And both of these A and B methods are discussed in colorimetry. So apart from these methods, following methods are used for quantitative analysis, especially for determination of mixture of medicinal substances, and these methods are simultaneous multi-component method, which is also known as simultaneous estimation method. Second is derivative spectroscopy, means derivative spectrophotometric method, and third is difference spectroscopy, means difference spectrophotometric method. So first is simultaneous multi-component method. All of these three methods are used for the determination of mixture. Mixture means having two sample molecules. Here we have taken one example of the mixture containing component A and component B. Concentration of component A in given mixture is X percentage weight by volume, and concentration of component B is Y percentage weight by volume. Wavelength maximum means lambda max of component A is lambda 1 and lambda max of component B is lambda 2. E1 percentage 1 centimeter values at lambda 1 of component A is A1 and of component B is B1, and E1 percentage 1 centimeter values at lambda 2 of component A is A2 and of component B is B2. These values can be determined by plotting calibration curve. Means by taking minimum 5 readings, we can get these E1 percentage 1 centimeter value by taking the average of their absorptivities. And E1 percentage 1 centimeter value of mixture at lambda 1 is known as S1, and this value of mixture at lambda 2 is known as S2. What we have to do in these methods, students? Our sample, the reading of our sample is taken at lambda 1 as well as lambda 2, and the standard of component A is prepared, calibration curve of component A is prepared by using standard material of that component, and calibration curve for component B is prepared by using reference standard material of that component B. And then by calculating all these values and by putting these values in particularly given equation, we can get the concentration of component A, which is X percentage weight by volume, and concentration of component B, which is a Y percentage weight by volume. So by using these equations, we can get the concentration of both these components in given mixture. And in this method, these concentrations are determined simultaneously, so it is known as simultaneous estimation method. The second is derivative spectrophotometric method. In this method, spectral isolation is achieved rather than chromatographic isolation. In a derivative spectrum, the change in absorbance with respect to wavelength versus wavelength is recorded, and first or second derivative spectrum is recorded, and the characteristic peak for the individual component can be identified and quantified using a calibration curve of pure substance. The third method is difference spectrophotometric method. This method is especially useful in quantify a substance when interfering species are present, and the principle is that the absorbance difference between two forms of the same drug is measured. The absorbance difference is achieved by using pH manipulation using a pair of buffers, and this method is used to quantify drugs in biological fluids. The third application is chemical kinetics. Chemical kinetics means kinetics of chemical reactions. Kinetics of a reaction can also be studied using UV spectroscopy, and the ultraviolet radiation is passed through the reaction cell and the absorbance changes can be followed. Means by the absorbance changes we can say that at which stages our reaction has reached, means how much reaction has completed and which stages are remaining. So we can determine the kinetic of our chemical reaction by measuring the absorbances of the reaction cell. On the reaction cell, UV radiations are passed and then the absorbance changes are observed. Because as reaction proceeds, concentration of reactants decreases and the concentration of product increases, and or concentration of intermediates increases. The fourth application is keto-enol tautomerism. Keto and enol forms of a substance have different UV absorption pattern. Using this principle, the percentage of keto and enol form in a mixture, the presence of enol in ether or alcohol can be calculated. Keto and enol forms has a different UV absorption pattern, and so by using ultraviolet spectroscopy we can determine the percentage of keto form as well as the percentage of enol form in a given mixture. Here one example is given, and the keto form has lambda max 275 nanometer while the enol form has lambda max 244 nanometer. So by comparing the data we can determine which form is present in the mixture and in which amount. So these for application number 5 to 10 refer video tutorial types of colorimeters and applications of colorimetry, because these applications 5 to 10 are already discussed in this video tutorial having title types of colorimeters and applications of colorimetry, and these applications are determination ratio in metallic complexes, determination of pKa means dissociation value in indicators, determination of molecular weight of amines, determination of elements, ions, functional groups, determination of organic substances and pharmaceuticals, and spectrophotometry titrations. All of these applications are discussed in detail in applications of colorimetry, and so here we have discussed in detail only first 4 applications, which are qualitative analysis, in which we have seen detection of impurities, structural elucidation of organic compounds, and structural analysis of organic compounds. And in this structural analysis of organic compounds we have seen the effects of conjugation, geometric isomerism, cross conjugation and alkyl substitution and number of rings. Most of these effects causes bathochromic shift. Then we have seen quantitative analysis, in that these first 2 methods are discussed in colorimetry, and here we have studied simultaneous estimation method, which is also known as simultaneous multi-component method, then derivative spectrophotometric method and difference spectrophotometric method. From these three methods, simultaneous estimation method is more widely used. Then we have seen chemical kinetics, in which UV spectroscopy is used to determine the stages of chemical reaction, how much reaction is completed and how much reaction is remaining. And then UV spectroscopy is also used to determine the keto or enol form of the compound, means which form is present and which is not, and the percentage means the concentration of that form. To determine this, the UV spectroscopy is also used. So we have seen instrumentation and applications of ultraviolet spectroscopy in this lecture. Okay, thank you.